I'm sure you've experienced it before. Stiff, tight, sore shoulders, muscles all knotted up from being stressed all day or spending all day on the computer. So in today's video, I'm going to explain what these knots are, what causes them, and what we can do to get rid of them. Hey, welcome to Body Fix Exercises. My name's Stefan, been a chiropractor for 27 years, and I'm here to help you understand, prevent and improve musculoskeletal problems. So let's go. Muscle knots, or myofascial trigger points as they're called, make our muscles feel tense and sore. And the king, what has to be the most common trigger point in the whole body, is right up in this area, in the area of the traps and the levator scapula. But what are these knots? Well, they're actually small parts of the muscle that get stuck in a contracted state. And when this happens, it can restrict blood flow and that increases the toxins in the area. These contracted areas are caused by overworking the muscle, usually muscles that are tense for a long period of time, like in stress or poor posture, but also in areas of spinal joint dysfunction. When the joints of the spine get jammed in a bad position, the muscles in the area tend to tighten up, and that can cause trigger points or knots as well. If that's the case, you might need to go and see someone to release those joints. But regardless of the cause, you can help get rid of these knots using these techniques. To release the knot, you have to be able to find it. And the first way to find it is just to feel for a harder part of the muscle. It's like a little harder nodule about the size of a jelly bean that feels a little firmer. In the trapezius area, you're looking here, over the upper traps and the levator scapular muscles. Sometimes you'll find just one, or sometimes you'll find a few trigger points clustered close together. The second thing that you can use is soreness. If you press on a point and it's quite sore, between 5 and 9 maybe out of 10, you're on the spot. If it's an active trigger point, it'll actually refer pain to other areas as well. So for example, in the trapezius area, it can refer pain up the neck to the base of the skull or behind the ear, or sometimes down the arm or down the back a bit. So they're the active trigger points. Sometimes they refer pain, sometimes they don't. So what can we do to release these knots? Well, you can put pressure on the knots, you can squeeze and contract the muscles, and you can stretch. For me, the most important is the first step, which is pressure on the muscle. If you just try to stretch the muscle out, it'll stretch in areas where it isn't contracted, and that's not going to help. So the first step is pressure right on the knot. And the best thing to use for that is a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball. With your feet about 20 or 30 centimeters from the wall, put the ball over the trigger point area and lean up against the wall. Now you want to cross your arms to expose the muscle. That makes it easier to find. And you want to have your head in a neutral position. You can lean it up against the wall, but try not to tilt it or rotate it into an awkward position. Now as you move around, you'll find one of those sore spots, but if the pressure's too much and you feel like your head's going to explode, then just move your feet a little bit closer to the wall. If the pressure's not enough, you can lean further against the wall by bringing your feet further away from the wall. And then just hold it on that spot. If you have trouble reaching the spot, you can put the ball in a thin sock and just hang it over that spot for easy access. There's two main techniques here. You can move very slowly across the point, or I prefer just to hold the position right over the sore spot without moving. For me, the less movement, the less irritation to the soft tissue structures. I personally recommend holding it for 30 seconds to 1 minute on each spot, and often you'll find a few spots nearby, so you don't normally have to move more than a centimetre to find the next one. And it's usually a good idea to check the other side as well. Think of the trigger point as a dirty sponge. To clean a dirty sponge, what do? You squeeze it out underwater. The pressure of a tennis ball is just like that. By pressing on this point, you're releasing all the toxins, squeezing it out, and then when you take the pressure off, blood flushes through the area and cleans it out. So if you do that with a thumb, for example, on a point, you can feel the muscle starting to relax. If you're doing it on yourself with a tennis ball, you can feel the pain start to subside. Sometimes it'll just take 30 seconds to get rid of a trigger point, if it's a short-term issue. If it's a long-term chronic issue, you may need to do it several times. If it keeps coming back, you're either doing something that's perpetuating the problem, bad posture or you're under chronic stress, or you might have a dysfunctional joint and you might need to go and see a professional. Step number 2 is to lightly and repetitiously squeeze the muscles. Now that we've softened the knots, we want to flush a bit of blood through to the area to cleanse it out. So to do that, tuck your chin in, lift your shoulders and squeeze them back together, and then relax. 5 times, 2 seconds each position, and relax. Or just do nice small squeezy circles. Next, put your arms together and then squeeze your shoulder blades together like this 5 times, just lightly. And after you've done 5 of those, do it on a 45-degree angle with some reverse flies to squeeze the shoulder blades together. Don't overdo it. We don't want to overwork the muscles. We just want to get a bit of blood through that area. Now the first step, when you put the tennis ball on the points, it should hurt. But on these second step and the next step, it should feel quite comfortable. And finally, step number 3 is just a light, quick stretch. So I do these stretches very quickly because again, we're just trying to get a bit of blood flushing through the muscles. So to do this, tuck your chin in to open up the facet joints and to engage the deep neck flexors, and then just drop your nose towards your armpit and hold for a couple of seconds. And then again the other side. And do that 5 times each side. Now these final steps aren't as important as the first step. If you don't have a lot of time, you can just do step number 1. But if it's a little bit more serious and you've got a bit more time, then you can do step number 2 and 3 as well. And that's it. Now I'm going to give you a quick summary. You're looking for 2 or 3 tender, tight spots in your trapezius. You lean up against a tennis ball on those spots and you hold it for 30 to 60 seconds. Cross your arms because that exposes the muscle, and keep your neck in a nice neutral position, not twisted. And that's the most important bit. Afterwards, if you've got time, you can do a few shoulder squeezes, a few reverse flies, and on an angle, and some stretches. The key, as always, is to try to avoid the cause of these problems. And the most important thing is your posture. Try to keep your chin in and down. When your head is forward, it's putting these muscles under constant strain. When you're doing a lot of time in front of the computer, try to take plenty of breaks. And if you can, do some of those exercises I showed you in step number 2 and 3, but as a preventative measure, the reverse flies and the shoulder shrugs, they can help to keep the muscles nice and relaxed. But that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you for the next video. Cheers.